This time I'll call the regular meeting of the Pittsboro Board of Commissioners for Monday, March 10th, 2014 to order. Ask for a moment of silence. Thank you. Commissioner Farrell, would you lead us in the pledge?
Certainly. Everybody rise for the pledge.
To the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
First order of business is the consent agenda tonight. We have one item, which is the minutes of the February 24th meeting. Do you have any changes to the consent agenda, or do I hear a motion to accept as presented?
Second.
Moved and seconded that we accept the consent agenda. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Okay. So we approve the consent agenda. And now we need to approve the regular agenda. Any additions, changes, deletions that anybody's aware of? Mr. Manager, anything from staff? No? Any board members wish to change? Do I hear a motion to accept the agenda?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
The agenda is approved. Moving on to citizen matters. Before we call anybody, I would like to let the folks in attendance know tonight that I'm going to enforce the procedural rules of the board that we will not permit public expression on items that are on the agenda for board action. Of the 4 citizens I have signed up for public expression, 3 have indicated that that's the subject you wish to speak about. So I'll ask you to withdraw from public expression. That would be Kitty Meacham, Amy Brennan, and John Wagner. You've indicated that Chatham Park is your subject, so we will not be offering you an opportunity to speak tonight. And I need a clarification from the 4th person. If your subject is also Chatham Park or the Lawrence Group Board, we'll not be offering you a public expression opportunity tonight. We'll ask those people to either communicate directly with the board via emails or send your concerns to the clerk or the manager. And also let you know that there may be, I'm hopeful that there'll be another opportunity for public hearing on this subject once the master plan reaches its final configuration. So I have Amanda Robertson. You indicated your subject matter was citizen involvement. Is that related to Chatham Park?
It was a request to include citizens in the process. So it may relate. I would also wanted to request on behalf of Pittsboro Matters this evening that the letter that we sent to the board and yourself and the Planning Commission to please be added to tonight's record, to be formally added to the record. So that's
Okay.
what
Yeah, I'm not going to permit that. I'm going to ask you to send those concerns via email to the board. You can put all the board members, to the manager and the clerk if you wish, but that would be a subject that relates directly to Chatham Park.
Thank you.
So we have no public expression speakers that wish to speak on any matter other than Chatham Park, so we'll move to old business. First item of old business is Forest Service redesign grant update from Catherine Denninger.
Good evening, Commissioners, Mayor, Terry, town staff, and citizens. First, I'd like to thank you for the time and the opportunity to give you an update on the Forestry Redesign Grant, which now we've gotten started on this project. We're actually calling it Pittsboro Tools for, we're calling it Planning Tools for Pittsboro. The project, as you probably remember, came out of the efforts of the Chatham Conservation Partnership with your approval to facilitate the implementation of land planning within Pittsboro and its ETJ to conserve natural resources. Planning Tools for Pittsboro is a partnership effort, and I've shown up here some of the many partners that we have that are actively working on this project. And actually, in addition to me here today is Mesa Brooks as well from the North Carolina Wildlife Service. So our starting point for this project was the Comprehensive Conservation Plan for Chatham County. Our plan was to take the tools developed in the Chatham Plan and tailor them to Pittsboro, and then add additional tools with the help of the implementation of conservation measures within the town and its ETJ. And what I've outlined here are the 5 primary tasks that we've identified to complete our goal of developing conservation planning tools. And the first 4 listed, the ecosystem analysis and canopy assessment, the mapping of the natural resources and community outreach, the draft model ordinance language, and the economic impact assessment of conservation measures. All of those are specific to Pittsboro. The last one, the 5th, a case study, that is documentation of the tools developed in the project so that they can be used as a model for other communities. The first thing I've put together a timeline. This is something that comes up a lot when I talk to town staff and others about the project, is what is our timeline. What we're trying to do is actually complete the piece that we're doing for Pittsboro by the end of the year, by the end of 2014. So I've shown up here are the, again, those 5 tasks here in different colors. The ecosystem services analysis, we started back in October when this grant started, and that work actually is primarily completed by the end of 2013. And Gary Moll from Global Ecosystem Center and I met last month with the town staff to describe this analysis, and we presented them with the resulting report. And after looking at this timeline for the other tasks, I'll be going over a little bit of that analysis briefly today. The second task, which is listed, is the mapping of the natural resources and the community outreach. And this work was actually contracted to myself through biosinosis. As someone that has worked in the Pittsboro community and is a member of the Pittsboro community for over the last 10 years, and also as someone that helped with completing the Chatham Conservation Plan, I was in a good position to help coordinate outreach and completion of this effort. The third task in this is taken up by the Nicholas Institute of Sustainability at Duke University, and they have the task of drafting potential model ordinance language that will be fitted to Pittsboro's needs. This language will include options that can be either adopted or not. This work began in January of this year, so it just began. They expect to complete the first milestone, which is a review of the existing town ordinances to determine what natural protections are already in place by the end of March, and then to begin drafting potential ordinance language in April. The expectation is that between July and December will be the time for revisions based on input from the town. And we've been in contact with Stuart Bass about this work in the hopes that it can be used also to support the UDO effort the town plans to take up. And the 4th task is the economic impact assessment, and this is probably the shortest task. In the timeline that I gave the town on Friday that you probably have, this task was shown to be 6 months, and I've actually changed that to 3 months. We expect them to get it done quicker. We are actually still working to put a contract together for this piece of work. It will not begin until we've gotten the conservation areas identified, so it will probably start sometime in the summertime. Right now, we're in a conversation with the New England Finance Center at the University of Maine. We've actually talked to many groups about getting this work done, and we've had some trouble trying to find someone that will do exactly what we're looking for. What we're looking for is to document the economic impact of implementation of conservation measures. And so just as a simple example, that would be like looking at the increase in property values due to doing conservation, or looking at the decrease in the cost of infrastructure due to having done conservation. And then we have the case study, but that will be probably completed after the beginning of 2015. The other two things I wanted to point out on this is that we do have 2 upcoming meetings that are public community meetings. One in April, it's April 17th, it's the Chatham Conservation Partnership, one of their quarterly meetings. We will be focusing on planning tools in Chatham County, and we will be talking about this particular planning tool effort in Pittsboro as part of that meeting. And in addition, Robeson Creek Watershed Council will be giving a report to the community in May with, again, a focus on this project and trying to get input from the public. We plan to also have an additional public meeting in the fall. Let's see if I can figure out how to advance this. So I've lost track of the parachute. Brian, can you do this stuff, please? Okay, thank you. Okay, so this is the first task that has actually been completed. The ecosystem service analysis, this report, the land cover change analysis and urban tree assessment report. Basically what it does is it goes over these different tools that were developed: land cover classification, canopy assessment, and ecosystem service analysis. And the land cover classification, not only does it give us a very current classification system, but also it looks at change analysis over the past 28 years. Well, I'm going to have to rely on you. Okay. So, the methodology used for the land cover classification is the same methodology used to complete the national land cover data sets, which are created by satellite imagery. This is done, I think, every 5 or 6 years. The latest available classification system right now is for 2006, and that just came out. Pittsboro now has one for 2013. So you have the most up-to-date, probably, classification system data set in the country right now. And it classifies the land in 15 different categories, and it's been done for the 7 watersheds, 12-digit Huff watersheds that are part of Pittsboro's ETJ. Of course, primarily Pittsboro's ETJ is contained in the Robeson Creek watershed, but there are small pieces of other watersheds that come in, and that's where this map to the far side comes from. Here I created a map trying to zoom in and give you a better idea of what this data is. I went ahead and put the conservation areas highlighted from the Southwest Shores report up here just as an example. If you read the Southwest Shores report about the Haw River Slope State Natural Area Connector, which is that the top one that many of us know about, that's close to the Haw River. It says that it describes the Haw River Slopes State Natural Connector as one of the largest contiguous high-quality dry mesic oak hickory forest in the uplands and an excellent quality mesic mixed hardwood forest along the ravines. And much of this area is consistent of mature forest, although the area is also crossed by a power line. So if you look at the land classification for that area, and I know up here projected is probably not as easy as doing it on the computer, but the land classification matches that assessment, showing that this area is primarily a deciduous forest with a small amount of mixed and evergreen forest. And also you can see the close-up of the power line cut. So this is one way of actually getting not just an idea that there are trees there, but the types of trees, or if this is, you know, scrubland or pasture land. Some of this is hard to do just by looking at satellite data, unless you go to this analysis. And all these pieces go into the ecosystem service analysis. Can you go to the next? Okay. Yeah. Wow. That doesn't project all that well. So the second part of this analysis actually involved high resolution classification. And this classification is at a resolution of 1 meter within the town limits and 3 meters within the surrounding ETJ.
Catherine,
Yeah.
could you take a break? We have a commissioner who was detained and needs to take her seat here.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah, I can stop. Do that.
Just a quick second. Thank you.
So this is again more of a classification system to get a handle on what is on the ground. This is high resolution. It's 1 meter classification within the town limits. And I have no idea if you can actually see the town limits there, but you can picture it being there in the middle of. What's outlined here is actually the Robeson Creek watershed. Though this is done for the whole ETJ. They also, you know, we looked at just the Robeson Creek watershed. But, so we have the town of Pittsboro there, that's at 1 meter. Then outside of the town of Pittsboro, throughout the rest of the ETJ, we have classification at 3 meters. And then those classifications are just tree canopy, impervious surface, open space, water, and barren land. And barren land is something like a development spot where there's no land, there's no cover, it's bare soil. So, what's kind of interesting about this, just as a, you know, looking at it quickly, is that within the Robeson Creek watershed, and I'm someone obviously that's very interested in the Robeson Creek watershed since I've been working on that watershed for many years. Within the Robeson Creek watershed, within the town limits, and the town limits are completely within the Robeson Creek watershed, there's 15% impervious surface, 55% tree canopy, 29% open space, and 1% water. Now, you can compare that to within the Robeson Creek watershed within the ETJ. Within the ETJ, you have 3% impervious. So we're going from 15 to 3% impervious. And tree canopy, 55% in the town. In the ETJ is 76%. And we go on to 19% open space and 1% water. But I find this to be particularly interesting, especially when you think about, generally, when you look at a watershed within North Carolina, there's been studies done on this, with impervious surfaces between 10 and 30% is usually considered impacted. Greater than 30% is usually considered degraded for a watershed, especially with regard to aquatic life. And I know that, and as many do, that Robeson Creek is considered impaired for aquatic life within the town limits. And I was looking at a map of that today, and it really pretty much starts right with the town limits as Robeson Creek enters into the close to the town. It's in that impaired status. As soon as it passes by downstream of the wastewater treatment plant where it leaves the town limits, it also becomes unimpaired again, and that's when it enters into a more forested watershed with less impervious surface. So that's just one of the things that you can do is to, with a data set like this, is you can get a handle And it is one thing that they often point to with aquatic life, is how much impervious surface there is, because that does generally match up pretty well. This is again looking closer at that same data set. This actually is looking at Town Hall parcel, right where we are right now. And this is, I just wanted to show you how detailed this is. At 1 meter, you basically can see the canopy cover in town of individual trees. And so the way this is a potentially useful tool for the town, other than the fact that it does flow into the ecosystem service analysis, is that it could be used in developing a tree canopy ordinance to help you in that process of figuring out how you want to set that ordinance up. Okay. Okay. Wow. We've lost a few things. Okay. Wait, no, go back. No, it's just the table. Go back to the table. I think I was. Some of the numbers are not showing up. Okay, so no, they are showing up. Okay, it's just the outlines there. The table isn't showing up. Okay, so this is the simplest table from the ecosystem service analysis, where we're looking at. Okay, let me back up. First, ecosystem service analysis is simply an accounting method for tracking the benefits people attain from the ecosystem. Okay? The ecosystem here that is being considered is trees and soils. And the services that we're looking at are the removal of air pollution, carbon storage, and the reduction of stormwater runoff. And so what we can see here is that if you look within just the Pittsboro city boundary, right, with the amount of trees we have, which is in Pittsboro, within the town limits, we have 53% tree canopy cover. Okay. And if you look at the stormwater value that provides, we have an estimate that that's providing 32 million annually in stormwater savings, basically. So that the thought there is if you removed all those trees, then in order to deal with that stormwater, you would have to build stormwater controls, basically ponds would be the cheapest way to do it, at $3 a square foot, and that's where you get 32 million. So it'd actually be much more expensive to control that much stormwater that's being controlled by that 53% of tree cover. Now, if you go and look at the ETJ, just looking at the stormwater again, we have in the ETJ actually a 78% tree canopy, and that's providing 513 million annually, rounding that up, or rounding it down, for stormwater. And then we also can go back and look at what we're saving through air pollution removal and carbon sequestration. So when you go and look into this report, it goes further than this table and goes and looks at the analysis for the Robeson Creek watershed. So we don't just look at the boundaries by the ETJ in Pittsboro, but we can do it by watershed, which is really useful because we can take this stormwater and then go and look at the pollutants. And that's something I want to do next, is to take it and actually take this analysis a little bit further and tie it into like the TMDL that we have, the total maximum daily load standard that we have for Robeson Creek for phosphorus. And then also, this analysis is done for zoning districts and for scenarios where we increase the impervious surface to 20, 30, and 40%, and see what that does. And basically what you're doing is you're replacing some of the tree canopy with impervious surface and seeing how that changes the numbers. So we can go to the last slide. Okay. So the copies of the report that I was just talking about, the land cover change analysis and the urban tree assessment report, and all the other project resources are being housed at the Chatham Conservation Partnership wiki site. I've already given copies of this report to the staff, as well as the data set, the GIS layers that came out of this report, this analysis. And also, if anybody is interested in obtaining a copy of this analysis, you can contact me or go to the wiki site. Again, I wanted to mention that on April 17th and May 8th, we're going to have some public community meetings.
Can you tell us where those meetings will be?
Huh?
Can you tell us where those meetings will be held?
They will, let's see, let me think about it. Okay, the CCP meeting is going to be at the Holmes conference room at the library, and it's from 9 to 12. And the Robeson Creek Watershed Council, Robeson Creek Report to the Community, is actually going to be hosted by the Extension Service, and I expect it will be at the Ag Building. And that's going to be an evening meeting, probably starting at 6:30 or 7.
Mr. Grisbeck, I think if we can get those times and dates nailed down, we could put that on our website.
Now, I did, and I didn't, I pretty much purposely did this, but I did print out, not like the whole reports for you guys, but the executive summary, and I wanted to share that with you mostly so you can have a record of it. But this executive summary is not the easiest thing to read, neither is the report the easiest thing to read. I'm going to be working with Global Ecosystem Center to create something that's a little bit more easy to digest. But I didn't give it to you earlier because I didn't want you to get bogged down even in these 2 pages. Do you have any questions before I?
So staff has the ecosystem analysis?
Yes.
Okay. I think you offered anybody a copy? I'd like
Well,
to-
what I offered is I can electronic copy. I actually do have, I have one copy here. This copy has a bad printout in that it has 2012 there, but other than that,
Okay.
it is correct.
Any other questions from the board?
I just would add, and Catherine, I spoke earlier, and I do have electronic copies of that report as well. She mentioned earlier, just wanted to search for those. Post-meeting, if anyone's interested in it, and I don't try to copy of it.
We send it to everybody, just read it off, or read it.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Our next item of business is the Chatham Park Medical Office Building and the Hospice wastewater allocation request. Mr. Bass?
Yes, sir. This is a formal allocation request for wastewater, which is required prior to any kind of submission for a site development plan. The request is per the town's adopted policy, which was dated December 12, 2011. This particular request is for an allocation of 4,000 gallons of wastewater capacity for a 25,000 square foot medical office building, and the request for 6,000 gallons per day to construct a 20-bed hospice facility. Per the policy, applications for commercial developments are limited to 3,600 gallons per project, and that's augmented by the discretionary category. as the board may remember, we had three separate categories in the original policy. Residential, commercial, and then the largest category was discretionary. The office building would need 400 gallons per day from discretionary, and the hospice 2,400 gallons per day. And you have in the packet there a spreadsheet detailing the allocation request to date. And it's also a second spreadsheet. It's the same numbers, but it's just broken up between commercial and residential, so you can get an idea of what we've done so far. Recommendation is for approval of the proposed request for the wastewater allocation in the amount specified.
Questions from the board?
Pass all these calculations according to Diener's regulations.
Yeah, they use the 2T quote rule.
Thanks.
Mr. Best, do we know our remaining balances? I see totals allocated, but what was the total we started with, and what's the, do we know the remaining balance?
I don't have those exact numbers in front of me, but I think it's approximately half. I think the original allocation policy estimated approximately 90,000 gallons. Somewhere in that neighborhood.
Yeah, I think it is 90. I think if we can do 27, 18, 45, if we end up with 90.
Right.
So that's my recollection. We're almost halfway there.
Okay. And there's some, it may be something we need to revisit in the near future in discussions with Mr. Royal. It seems to indicate we may have some more capacity there than at first we thought. So.
Well, that would certainly be welcome. I know 2005, I think we initiated a moratorium that limited it to, I think, 4,200 gallons a day. And it took scrutinizing the facilities figures for paper flow and tributary flow and figuring, you know, we might just have a little bit more. So if we've done that analysis again and shown that we've got more capacity, that would be a very good thing.
If there are no further questions from the board, do we have a motion on the staff recommendation?
Motion to approve.
Second. All in favor?
Aye.
All opposed? Unanimously passes. The allocations are approved. Thank you, Mr. Bass. Next item is Lawrence Group Analysis Recommendation.